Welcome to the 5AM podcast, where we bring you insightful conversations with thought leaders and influencers who are making headway and some waves in their callings. Today, we have an incredible guest who's transformed his life from the brink of disaster to becoming a leader of inspiration and growth. Our guest today is Austin Page. He's the founder of GymFlo Coaching and a man who has literally rebuilt his life from the ground up. Austin is not just a full-time coach. He is a living testament to the power of breaking self-limiting beliefs and building mental toughness. From nearly losing his life to now living what he calls his bonus round, Austin has defied medical expectations by competing in not only bodybuilding, but also competing against himself in a 100-mile bicycle ride. He's here today to share his story of triumph and share with us how he rebuilt his body, mind, and ultimately his life, and how we can too. Now, before we roll that intro, please share this conversation with your friends and networks. Trust me, you will not want to keep this conversation to yourself. And hey, while you're feeling generous, show some love to the 5AM podcast by giving us a 5-star review at your favorite podcast player. And we appreciate those who've recently left us 5-star reviews. We do appreciate it. Takes just a moment, but it means the world to us. And also an additional thanks to those who have been generous and ventured over to buymeacoffee.com/5AMPodcast and bought us a few digital cups of coffee this week and last. We appreciate it. And if you want to join those generous souls over at Buy Me a Coffee, that address again is buymeacoffee.com/5AMPodcast. Pick us up a few virtual cups of coffee for the show. And now let's roll that intro. Austin Page, welcome to the 5AM podcast.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
It is great to have you here. It was a nice little chat we had before we hit the record button. And of course, it's what we like to do here at 5AM Podcast is just share those stories of resilience, beating the odds, and building something of value and a legacy. So thinking back to in your story, your origin story in your life, you mentioned that you were living maybe a reckless life that almost cost you everything. Can you take us back to that turning point, or the pivot as we call it nowadays, that really sparked your transformation?
Of course. So like many younger guys, this flip of the switch that happened in my life happened in my early 20s. And it was leading up until this point of me facing bad things that weren't returning anything in my life, going nowhere fast in general. And it happened one night. I was at a party, drinking, indulging in things like that, drinking, drugs, things that weren't serving me, and decided to get in the car and drive home. I don't remember this. I just sort of woke up in the hospital after the fact, but got in my car, made it about a mile away from the house, ran off the road. Nobody was with me. I didn't hit anybody, fortunately, but ran off the road, flipped my car a couple times, and ended up in the hospital. You know, throughout my high school into early college and through after college, I was I had no purpose, no path, no vision for myself. So I myself found purpose in my weekends, Thursday through Sunday, chasing things, looking for happiness in the same place I was losing it. Drinking, drugs, chasing chicks, things that, again, were anchors and giving me momentary happiness, but in long term, making me feel worse about myself. And I didn't know it because I was in that cycle of feeding that thing, which in return made me feel good in the moment. But long term, I was wondering why I still wasn't happy because I was always disregarding myself, trashing myself. And ended up in the hospital after that wreck. From there, I stayed in that hospital for about 6 weeks to where I ruptured my intestines. So I had a big gaping hole in my stomach from where they left me open for my intestines and all that gook that explodes out of them when you rupture them to get infection. And broke both my legs from the knees down, my left ankle as well. So my legs look like the Eiffel Tower when you take an x-ray of them, full of metal. And throughout that period, I realized things got real quick. I wasn't sure of my future, what I was going to do, what would I be able to do. And doctors were unsure as well. They were just trying to take it one day at a time. And that's a mentality that I implement to this day, is one day at a time, just showing up for myself, making that new version or new identity of myself. And it wasn't a flip of the switch or a complete 180 for myself, even though I was sitting in that hospital. Once they released me, they sent me to a rehab center, and not just like a rehab center for drugs or alcohol. It was like a physical rehab center. And I lived there for 2 months after that hospital stay of 6 weeks. And during that rehab stint, I had my own room. I was bedbound. I was not able to get into a wheelchair. I was not really able to use my body except my arms a little bit. So I watched TV all day, which doesn't make you feel that great about yourself when you're just sitting there sort of rotting.
For sure. Yep.
And you have a lot of time to think in that position. And I still didn't know who I was, what I wanted to do, or what was going to be my future. But I knew one thing that I could do was try and get myself out of the situation. And one day at a time, physical therapists would come in and give me some bands to do some exercises with, like while I was sitting in bed, and I would do some pull aparts. They would tie it to the side. I'd try and do some pressing and stuff like that. And I wasn't into working out, fitness, or building myself at all before this wreck. I was into partying, the rock star lifestyle. I thought I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof, like many young guys do. And obviously I am not. And I had to learn the hard way. But day after day, I got stronger. I started to build more content with myself. I started to feel better about myself because I was actually doing something productive instead of taking steps backwards all the time before this wreck. Once I was able to get into a wheelchair, physical therapist would say, Austin, get your ass in the wheelchair. We'll meet you in the gym. This rehab center had a gym in it, and they would roll me down there. They would lock my wheelchair in place. They would give me some Gatorade bottles, and I'd start curling them in my wheelchair. That's doing what I could. They would get me up to this cable machine. I would do some push downs, some curls and that, some overhead pressing, get me in between these parallel bars, and doing dips in and out of my wheelchair. And again, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I needed to do something. So one day at a time, I was showing up, doing those things that I totally did not want to do back then. I didn't feel good about myself, but I knew after doing those actions, I felt better. So I kept leaning into that. After the 2 month stay, they released me. I was able to walk out of there on crutches. And it's crazy how quickly you lose control or power of those little things that we take for granted every day, like walking, getting yourself off the toilet, getting yourself out of bed. You can lose it pretty quickly. And so walking out of there was a big accomplishment for me. And I still was unsure if I'd be able to walk without crutches after the fact because my legs were still pretty banged up. But leaving that rehab center, I realized a change needed to happen, not just during that rehab step, but for my lifestyle. I said, okay, the gym, working out, building myself made me feel good. I'm going to lean into that even more. I'm going to get my first job outside of that wreck at a local gym. And I came with a front desk job, just checking people in. But it also came with a free gym membership, which at the time I was broke because I hadn't worked in months. I didn't really have a regular job before that. I was just doing odds and end jobs, whatever paid enough money to party on the weekends. So gave me something to focus on, gave me something to show up to, and gave me an avenue to sort of build better habits. So had that job for about a year or two and decided that I wanted to pursue it even more. So I started to reach out to coaches, trainers, and people that were doing it as a living. And still wasn't certified, still didn't know what I was doing, but I just was walking the path, taking steps forward. And there's a saying a mentor of mine once told me, and it connects now looking back on all the opportunities and doors that have opened up for me, is the path illuminates as you walk it. You start taking those steps, the path, whatever your conscience tells you, the voice of high above or the universe, whatever you want to think, opens up and shows you the way, lights it as soon as you start to take action. Sitting there thinking and humming and hawing, that light may never turn on. So you have to start taking action or steps forward to begin to start to see the path. But anyways, kept taking steps forward and realized that being a personal trainer wasn't something impossible. It was something I could do, a coach. Reached out to some of these people that I had met through the gym, and they said, hey, we see you making progress in the gym, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to learn more about coaching. They said, are you certified? I said, nope. I didn't know what a certification was. They said, all right, well, we'll hire you and we'll give you 60 days to get certified. And if you get certified within 60 days, we'll keep you. I took the chance. They took the chance on me. I got certified within 60 days and became a coach, became a trainer. And I was working for a Gold's Gym at that time, years ago in 2012, 2013. And so fast forward, few years of working for that Gold's Gym, coaching people, group classes, one-on-one training, stuff like that. I realized I was able to do it on my own and also do it better. And not to say Gold's is a bad gym to go get personal training
Of
out,
course.
but
Sure.
there isn't as much focus as I'm able to give my clients now.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, many clients that I got at Gold's Gym, they would get great results over that first 6 to 8 weeks. But the thing was, it wasn't the physical work that they needed. They needed the mental work, the mindset shift to keep those long lasting results. They haven't created that new identity for themselves, that new lifestyle, those new habits.
Mm-hmm.
They would get the results over that 6, 8, 12 weeks. And once they got it, they let off the gas. They went back to their old ways, their old habits, and would blow back up or fall off, fade away. So it was very frustrating over those first 3 years. And I realized that the way the system was set up, at least at that Gold's Gym, I needed to start doing my own thing and be able to lean into these people even more and dive into them even deeper with the time that I had. I didn't have much time with them there.
Right.
But now I have my own gym, my own coaching gym. It's a private gym here in Hanover, Virginia. And I also have my own coaching app where I'm able to work with people that aren't even local. And we're able to dive in through group calls, live calls, Q&As, and dive through the actionable habits and tasks that build the person that gets those results. Because it's not typically the what you need to do, it's who you need to be.
Yeah. That's a big deal. The mind over matter. Yeah. You know, and so of course our podcast is 5 a.m. And I remember in 6th grade seeing this comic of Ziggy, and it said getting up in the morning is mind over mattress. And it's true. You know, we're warm and cozy in bed, and maybe we're warm and cozy in life. It's a metaphor, absolutely. And we just think, do we want to get up? I kind of add the numbers of my clock our clock shines up on the ceiling so I can see, you know, the time, and I add up the 7 and the 3 and the 4, and I'm like, oh man, okay, well, I don't know if that's a good number to get up to, but you know, 5 o'clock in the morning comes early for a lot of people, but it's that mind over matter. Can you talk maybe a little bit about that mental process? Was there a spot somewhere along what you just had described to us where you thought, boy, this is at least as much mental as it is physical?
Yes. And it was daily. You know, there wasn't really a specific time. It was every time that I would have to get myself out of that bed when I didn't feel like doing it. And whatever that was, whether it was, I need to go down to the lunch cafeteria to go get my lunch. You know, we get comfortable, like you were saying. And every time that I had, it's more so knowing what breaks it down is there's things, you know, or we all know we should be doing.
Yeah.
Whether we've said it to ourselves, like, oh, I need to start eating better. I need to start moving more. I need to start making those phone calls or sending those emails or sending those applications in, whatever. And the more we avoid doing those things we know we should be doing, or we know we said we were going to do, the more we kind of disrespect ourselves. We don't respect ourselves as much. Whether you realize it or not, it takes points out of that confidence scale in yourself. So every day back then, I was slowly, one day at a time, one decision at a time, putting points into my confidence, into my mindset, into that grit or perseverance of, okay, I don't feel like doing it, but if not me, then who? Who's going to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good way to look at it of those points. Okay, I'm starting with 100 points today. I don't know how you do it, but, where do people start? Is it the food? Is it that mind over matter? Is if they can just take one step? I like how you were describing, we'll have to come back to the idea of a lamp to your path. It's not a spotlight. It's not like my dive light that'll light up my neighbor 2 houses over while she's watching TV. Talk to us about those first steps or those points that we have in our day.
So I'm very, I haven't always been this way. It's taken time, and I've never been a reader, but over the past years, I've tried to develop this skill of reading. And it's a skill like anything else. You want to get better at it, you got to do it more. You got to practice it. What gets attention gets better. And as I've read, I've leaned into Stoicism. And within Stoicism, there's a big perspective and mindset about controlling the controllables, those things we all can control, which is our body, our physical body we can control, like what we do with it, what we don't do with it, and our mind, how we think, how we react to things, who we hang out with, what we listen to, and what we get upset about. You know, is it tough? Yes. But all these things are skills that you can develop over time. The more you give it awareness, the more intent you give it. And some actionable things, controlling those things is your wake-up time. Everybody can control their wake-up time. Is it easy? No. But you can control it. It's 2025. Everybody has a cell phone with an alarm on it or an alarm clock that's a digital thing on the side. And it's pretty much fighting these two things. There's a thing called a boss voice and a bitch voice. And we have to either listen to that one. It could be the devil and God shoulder thing. You know, which one are we listening to? And there's one that knows, it knows who you want to be and where you want to go. And there's the other one that feels good in the moment, or just wants you to hang out and feel good. And it's not always black and white, like, oh, you should never feel good, but you should know that, oh, okay, I want to get better. So I'm going to have to go through a little discomfort to do that. I'm going to have to get stretched outside of my comfort to do that. So maybe waking up earlier is the first actionable thing you could do. If you're waking up at 7, wake up at 6. If you're waking up at 6, wake up at 5. I personally wake up at 4 every day. I've been doing that for quite some time now. And is it easy? Hell no. Today, I tried to question that, dragging my feet off the bed and getting up and getting those first few steps in. But once I'm up, I'm like, okay, I'm not rushed for my day. I'm not behind the ball already. I'm not waking up anxious, pissed off because I got to rush to work and I can't wake up. I think that's a big actionable thing that people can sort of, they can win their morning, which will help win their day if they can just get up a little bit earlier and take care of those things they always wish they had time to do, like getting their food together, hanging out with their kid a little bit more, reading that book that they always wish they had time to do, or a couple pages, sending those emails, or whatever you're always wishing you said, going for that walk, doing that workout. Wake up, take accountability, extreme ownership of the day. Those are things you can't control. And the other thing is definitely your food. That's another thing. Nobody's holding a gun to your head saying, hey, you have to eat this or eat that. There's decisions you can make, and you know what's good and what's not, probably. Most people do. And plus, it's 2025 again. You got Chat GPT and AI, YouTube, all these free things. There's no excuses.
That's right. And the way I look at it is, I know that if I go to bed at 9:30, if I'm winding down my night at around 9 and a little bit later, I know it's going to be a whole lot easier for me to get up at 5 or 5:30 and start my day. And it's that mental preparation. And you were talking about feeling good, and you know, peeing your pants might feel good at the moment, especially if you're cold, you know, kind of warms you up. And then all of a sudden you realize you got a mess to clean up.
You're right.
It's going to start to smell, but you want it to be comfortable. And boy, those first few moments, we might have felt really comfortable, but now you got a mess on your hands.
There's another thing that a mentor, the same mentor that I mentioned earlier, had told me, and it sort of relates to almost anything that you want as far as leveling up or growth within your life, whether it's personal growth, financial growth, spiritual growth, whatever. This next level of whatever you're trying to reach is probably not going to fit your comfort level. It's probably not going to fit your timeline, your schedule, probably not going to fit your pocketbook sometimes, your wallet, because it's growing pains for a reason. You're having to stretch to get to that next level. So you might have to endure a little discomfort to get the long-term result or outcome or opportunity to open its door for you.
That's
and
right.
The thing is that your mind knows there's a conscious thing in your mind that says, oh, I wish I could, I want to start waking up earlier, or I wish I had time to do this or that. Like I was mentioning earlier, there's things that you want, and just simply controlling or making more time within your day, because I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, I've heard it over years. I don't have time. I have a job, I don't have time to work out. I have kids, I don't have time to work out. And it's like, okay, like you were mentioning earlier, going to sleep earlier. You could backwards plan your day. Everybody knows what tomorrow is going to look like. Today's Wednesday. You know what Thursday is going to look like. I got to go to work by 8. I got to drop the kids off by this time. I got this appointment then, that kid pick up here. All right, well, let me backwards plan the day then. Since I know what Thursday is going to look like, I need to wake up at this time to allot time to do this, this, and this. Make time, not having to find time, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the Stoics. There's like so many rabbit trails we could all just jump off on. But I was thinking of this from Socrates. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. That's a deep one. I don't know if you know any Stoic quotes. That one wasn't off the top of my head. That was thanks to the brave search engine. But those Stoic quotes are just so good. And even for myself, coming from a Christian perspective of light and darkness, and knowing that we get to choose every day whom we will serve and what we will actually do. Will we live for our benefit and, in my case, God's glory, or do we live to manufacture something great in our life and for those around us? Can you talk about how changing our mindset actually makes life better for those around us?
Yes. I mean, you being a lesser version of yourself, who is that helping around you? Who's that inspiring?
Nobody. Yeah.
Is that
No
inspiring your
one.
kids? Are your kids looking up to you saying, oh, Dad's a superhero. Dad's my superhero. Dad gets it done. Dad never says all that excuse stuff. He doesn't blame me for not having time. If anything, he says I'm the reason why he makes time. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, whether you're religious or whatever you look up to,
Yeah.
like, do you think God or the higher power above is going to bless somebody that's doing the work, helping themselves, or is he going to help the person that's just sitting there praying for it? He's probably going to bless and give to the person that's already taking action and helping themselves.
That's
I
right.
see that person hustling, making the actions, making decisions, deciding right, leaning into that higher version of himself, that leader version of himself. I'm gonna open doors for him even more, instead of the person's just sitting back waiting with their hands out. Please help me. Think of it that way. Who are your actions and decisions inspiring others around you, or is it giving a bad example?
Yeah. Yeah. That's perfect. And even thinking of how intentional, like in our house, we have to be about morning affirmations or how we're going to start our day. And, there's great affirmations out there, but if I don't look them up, if I don't open the pages of the book to actually start speaking about wonderful joy is coming my way, wonderful joy is here to stay, or something like that, where I want to set the tone for my each and every step that day, we have to be so intentional.
Yeah.
When thinking back through your time, when did it dawn on you? Like, was there a shift that came of like, wow, I have to be really intentional about what I want?
Yeah.
I was on cruise control before, but now I got to step on the gas or the brake or turn.
I would say, I can't think of like a direct spot. I mean, definitely after the wreck, I realized me almost losing my life and like being looking back at myself and being like, man, you were a loser, dude. You were willing to almost lose your life over these inanimate things, drugs, alcohol, chicks, things that, like, I don't know, vices per se, it's like, oh my gosh. So I guess I didn't like myself. So I decided to start doing something about it. I think there was a famous quote, not a famous quote, it's a funny quote from a movie called Dodgeball. And he's like, Ben Stiller says it, and it's kind of blunt, but it's kind of true, at least in my eyes. He says, you got to hate yourself enough to do something about it. Whether not hating yourself, but hating your situation enough, your circumstance. Right. And it's like, okay, I'm tired of accepting. I'm tired of good enough, or probably most of the time it's worse than that. And you don't want it. For most people, it's going to probably take something not life-changing or near-life loss like me, but maybe you're going to have to get a little bit heavier. Maybe you have to have that life scare. Maybe your partner is going to have to leave you to open your eyes because they're tired of your old ways, your old habits. Sometimes it's going to take the rock bottom to make you switch, like it did for me. I was on trajectory to hit rock bottom, and I did it. And I realized, man, okay, things that was definitely that moment would have to be the wreck, but it doesn't have to be for everybody. You can listen to this now and be like, they're okay. I'm getting older. I'm not getting younger. Time isn't coming back. What can I do today?
Yes.
And the actionable thing is that I try and remind people within my group or people that I come across. The one thing you can do today to start changing the trajectory towards the person you would want to become, the person you would admire, is creating yourself like a brand book. So what I mean by that is a list or a booklet, a guidebook, a day-to-day guidebook of what you do and what you don't do anymore. And not say you, the future version of you. What's that 2.0 Austin? What do I want him to look like? What do I want him to be living like? Where do I want him to be living? What type of house? What type of job? Okay, let's backwards plan that. What will it take? What daily actionable tasks do I need to put in my booklet of things that I
Yeah.
need to do daily to start to implement that over time. It's not going to be overnight.
Yeah.
And
That's
what
right.
do I need to avoid to make sure I'm not taking steps backwards like I've
Yeah.
been doing? What are the anchors of my days? Where am I wasting
Yeah.
time spinning my wheels?
Absolutely. I know I got to give props to my wife. She is the not the controller. She's the administrator of the vision board in our house.
My wife
And
is too.
yeah, yeah, it's great to have a good wife.
It is.
And I got to tell you, even on the weekend, she was like, "Okay, Michael, we've knocked some things off the vision board list. We've accomplished those, and we're not going to sit back and look at the empty space on the board." She was talking to me about what else are we going to put on here, and
Yeah.
we want to rise above and be able to keep marching forward. And there's a couple of things that I've learned in life, and you see different couples go their separate they go from being an individual to being one, and then separating again, and never blaming somebody for that because we haven't walked in their shoes. But the other thing is never robbing someone of their rock bottom. And you were talking about your rock bottom, and it made me think of that saying of how vital that is for some of us to actually come to the ends of ourselves and say, wow, I need to I need to be recreated in this. Thinking to some of your clients, have you been able to you find people who maybe they don't know they're at the rock bottom, they're still digging deeper, and you've been able to kind of shine a light to their path? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a gentleman join my group, and he was on his way to rock bottom. I was lost with drinking a ton, similar to me. And that can be a huge anchor. Not to say people can't indulge and enjoy drinks from time to time, but when it becomes an escapism and or a thing to cover up or mask some of those
Yeah.
internal things that you're trying to avoid, that internal work, and it's typically a lack of action, or you're continuing to do something that you don't like about yourself. And
Yeah.
it's person to person on that, but realizing that we're not victims of our circumstances, we're victims of our decisions. And
Mm-hmm.
our decisions are daily decisions. And I can't stress it enough. It's what we do daily. Like, that's why I say a daily guidebook. It's one day at a time, because we're either moving forward or we're taking steps backwards. There's really no maintaining in life. Yeah, you can have a day off of, great habits, and you can indulge and have a complete F off day, whatever. But eventually that scale is going to start sliding backwards. And for most people, it's success. So for him, success is subtractive. When we can remove some of those habits and some of those triggers that he had of wanting to lean into alcohol and some of those things, the more he could lean into, or had more time, more clarity to lean into those things that would propel him forward. And building a daily process, or a daily process would be the probably the easiest word that I could use right now, to keep you aligned. And there's a part of having discipline with your food, your body, and your mind each day that can help cultivate, not immediately, but over time, help cultivate and keep you aligned with building that better version of yourself.
Yeah. So I got to ask you, we're not wrapping up quite yet, but I see the clock on the wall, and people are listening, and they probably want to get in touch with you, and we haven't mentioned your web address yet. So how do people get in touch with you?
For sure. You can check out my coaching and obviously sign up at www.gymflocoaching.com. And that's GymFlo with no W, GYMFLO coaching.com. And you can also find me on social media. Good.
So as you were talking, I was thinking back to some of my production career working on televising football games. And I've had this idea since college, really. I loved football. And I was talking to this former football player who was a commentator, and we were having this conversation. I said, Glenn, one of the reasons that I really love football is because it's a metaphor for life. You never have the same yard of scrimmage in a day. You either losing yards or gaining yards.
Yep.
And if you're on that 35-yard line, and the offense that you're up against actually prevented you from getting yards, you've still lost yards.
Yes.
And what a metaphor for life that is, what you were saying of we're either moving forward or we're sliding backwards. And we absolutely want to keep going forwards. And I know one of the things that I know I've mentioned it already, but affirmations in the morning and being intentional about setting the course of your day. And so there was a lady almost 100 years ago. Her name was Florence Scovel Shinn. And one of her sayings is, I now exercise my fearless faith in three ways: by thinking, speaking, and acting. I am unmoved by appearances, therefore appearances move. Can you talk a little bit about when we see things around us, how do we know which appearances we can ignore and expect to go away and which ones we want to focus on and go towards?
So there's things around you that the way that I try and get myself and my clients to realize what's affecting them or what they need to focus on is focusing on themselves. And, there's going to be people around you, family, friends. Of course, they can, these things can be distractions and or sabotaging. They can, hey, come on, let's go out to happy hour. Hey, let's go do this. And it's not what you truly want to do. Your conscience is like on the topic of, religion or whatever, your conscience is a higher voice of God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, that it knows deep down what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. And if you can sort of sit there and listen to it a little bit, it'll whisper to you what you should be doing. And typically things that give you regret after you do it should be your God. So, try everything. If you're unsure, try it. If you get a sense of regret after you do it, that's another sign from above saying, oh, I probably shouldn't do that. I don't feel good after I do that. Or I didn't feel good after I did that. Let me avoid that as much as I can. Will I touch it again? Will I touch that hot stove? Will I go and probably blindly do it again? Maybe, but hopefully I get burnt, quote unquote, again, to where I'm like, I didn't feel that good. Let me avoid that again. I don't feel good about myself when I do that. And that's what I definitely try and implement in my own life. And it's a skill. Like I mentioned, these are all little skills that you can build if you give them intent and awareness. And over time, you can do it as well. That'll help keep you aligned with, again, that future version, that person you admire. Because we all have somebody that we admire around us, whether it's your father, somebody that you follow on social media, not typically celebrities or something like that. They're not a great probably person to look up to, but people around you in your network, in your community, there's people that you admire. You're like, dang, that person's got it going on. I wish I had a little something of that going on in my life. They just have it all together. You can implement some of those things, actionable things that they do. How do they conduct themselves throughout their days? What do they do? And most importantly, what do those people don't do in their days, their day to day? And start to implement some of those things. Not to say we need to become them. You have your own identity. Do what you feel is right. But some of those habits will help keep you aligned, whether it's yes to this, no to that. Yes to this, no to that. Let me avoid this. Let me lean into that. So I guess having a vision of who you want to be, you want to show up like, and start to build the actionable steps of things that you do and things that you don't do anymore. And that creates the new identity. The more votes you cast into that list of the do's, the more strength, confidence, and mindset of like, okay, I am this person. This is what Austin does now.
Yeah. So Austin, with that in mind, what's your vision for your future, and how do you maybe plan to expand your impact and breaking those self-limiting thoughts and maybe bringing that to a larger scale?
Yeah. So for me, it's to continue to keep, because I have my online side of coaching. I've only been focusing on it a little under a year. And because I've been an in-person coach for a long time. So I really want to focus on that, being able to help others, because I can only help but so many hours of the day here in person. I'm able to reach a lot more people that aren't local and whatnot, and start to implement some of the daily habits and daily actionable tasks that they can do to start taking control of themselves, their body and their mind. Those things that you can control. We all can. So I want to be able to create more with that by producing more content, reaching out to collaborations like this with podcasts, and also, like I mentioned earlier, it's 2025. So I want to increase my content awareness on social media because that's where the eyeballs are, and hopefully get somebody that's doom scrolling or doing whatever to be like, dang, okay, this guy, I want to start listening to him because I want to start implementing those daily things that he does to where he's flipped his life. So that's my end all goal with that. So if the doors open up to get on stages and do that, I'm all for it. But I'm just keep taking steps towards that.
That's right. One step after the other. And ladies and gentlemen, remember, like Austin was saying, we're holding a lamp, not a spotlight.
No.
And it's like one day at a time, sweet Jesus, like that old song. But now that we are starting to wrap up, I definitely want to remind our listeners that you can access all that Austin has to offer on his Instagram and his website. And his website, again, ladies and gentlemen, I just had it here. It's GymFloCoach.com. So GYMFLO coach.com. Head over there. You can see a bunch of great stuff and get in touch with this man that can help propel you forward if that's what you need. And of course, we all want to break off those self-limiting beliefs and live life in a different way or maybe in a larger scale. And one thing I was going to say is, as we're wrapping up is if you remember that old song that I'm sure most people sang as children, she'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. Now, if you feel like you're encountering the same pitfall and you're going around that mountain, it's probably worth talking to Austin or looking at some resources at 5AMPodcast.com, because we don't actually want people to say, oh, here's Michael coming around the mountain again. Yes. No, I don't want to go around the same mountain. I don't want to wander for 40 years in the desert. No, thank you. I want to get it right with each step. And when I do take those pitfalls, like Austin was saying about hitting that remorse section of the after effects, we got to say, nope, okay, I fell down. I can pick myself up. God can pick me up. My friends can pick me up. My coach can pick me up. There's people around you that can help out. And Austin, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a great, great conversation.
Thank you, Michael. There's one last thing I'd like to leave off with for myself.
Yes, please.
It's a saying I have here on the gym wall, and it's something I have to remind myself or quote daily when I'm coming to cutting corners or falling off on my own word, skipping out, or just saying, not today, it's not important. We are only as good as the example we set. And when you can ask yourself or just say that to yourself in the mirror, I'm only as good as the example I set. Are you inspiring, or are you just letting other people down again? That's what I'd like to leave people off with. Yeah, that's great. Good words to close out on. Thanks again, Austin. It was an absolute pleasure. And thank you to, absolutely. And thank you to our viewers. We appreciate you joining in on this conversation. And if you haven't already, please share this with some friends. I'm sure there's a name or two rolling around in your brain right now, and you're thinking that Beth or Carl need to hear this. Yes, this is your confirmation from both Austin and I. Yes, send it to them, because, if you're getting that name, it's for a reason. So bless your friends and your frenemies with this, because they need to hear some truth and just have that opportunity even to get in touch with Austin to help them take a step forward. And what we put our attention to and our money to, you get what you pay for, ladies and gentlemen. And I just want to thank you for being here, everyone. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, if you could be so kind as to give a 5-star review on your favorite podcast player for 5 a.m. podcast, we would love that. And this is that time where I've got to thank all those who ventured over to buy me a coffee this weekend last. You went to buymeacoffee.com/5ampodcast. You bought us a few virtual cups of coffee, and we are grateful and thankful. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, please seize your day and don't forget to enjoy those sunrises and sunsets. I'm Michael Klassen.